Next Level Soul Publishing presents The Chronicles of Atlantis. Book 3, Atlantis Reborn in America, by Phylos the Tibetan and Lucien Ardan. Read by William Sterling. Introduction. The story does not end with Egypt. The Nile carried its wisdom for a time, but every river eventually joins the sea, and every sea births new shores. I walked the marble streets of Atlantis. I walked the stone corridors of Egypt, and I walk still, clothed in new garments, beneath new skies, in lands unimagined by those who came before. Continuity is the law. Nothing unfinished is lost. The flame returns, carried from age to age, body to body, continent to continent. And now it burns again in the west. This land is unlike the others. Atlantis dazzled with its crystals, Egypt with its temples. But the west rises in iron and smoke. Its towers are not of marble or limestone, but of steel and glass. Its chants are not sung in sacred halls, but thundered in factories, roared by engines, pulsed through wires and satellites. Its pyramids are skyscrapers, its rivers are railways, its fires are machines that never sleep. To those who know no memory, this is progress. To those who remember, this is repetition. For what is a machine but crystal fire reborn? What is the network of wires and lights but the same hunger that once harnessed the forces of nature for pride? What is the chant of industry but the same vibration that healed and then destroyed? In every clattering wheel, in every glowing screen, I hear the echo of Atlantis, and in every collapse of balance, in poisoned rivers, in burning skies, in hearts emptied of wonder, I see the shadow of Egypt. The West boasts of its speed. Its people rush as though eternity can be outrun, as though balance can be ignored by moving faster than law itself. Trains thunder across plains, ships of iron cut through oceans, planes carve the sky with fire. Each invention dazzles, each promise intoxicates, and yet beneath the roar, I hear the same whisper. What is not balanced will fall. What is not true will unravel. What is not humble will be stripped. The adepts of Egypt warned us of this law. The temples carved it in stone, the scales of Mayat weighing the heart against the feather of truth. But the West laughs at such scales. It weighs itself not against truth, but against profit. It judges itself not by lightness of heart, but by weight of wealth. Yet the law does not bend. It waits, patient, merciful, exact. I walk through this land and see marvels, cities lit brighter than constellations, voices carried across oceans by wires and waves. Knowledge gathered and spread in moments that once took lifetimes. But marvels are not wisdom. Brilliance does not guarantee balance. Atlantis proved this. Egypt proved this. And the West now repeats the test. Still, continuity is merciful. The adepts whispered, "Nothing unfinished is lost. Every lesson deferred will return." And so I see ancient wisdom return, clothed in new language. I see seekers listening again to rivers and forests, scientists peering into atoms and finding mystery where they expected certainty, visionaries glimpsing eternity in moments of silence or near death. The flame has not died. It hides in the noise. It waits in the dark. It hums beneath the machines. I remember Atlantis glowing with crystal fire, Egypt glowing with starlight, and now I see the West glowing with screens and circuits. The flame is the same. The garments change. The test remains. Will we repeat? Or will we remember? At times I feel despair, watching the West march forward blind with pride, its people chained to hunger for more power, more speed, more wealth, more dominion. But then I remember the river. I remember the stars. I remember the whisper of continuity. Collapse is not cruelty, it is correction. When imbalance grows too great, the law restores it. When pride climbs too high, it falls. When lies weigh down the heart, the scale tips, and truth rises. And so the West, like every civilization before it, stands at the crossroads. Its brilliance dazzles, its shadow grows, its flame whispers still. The question is eternal. Will we repeat, or will we remember? The West prides itself on forgetting. It calls this forgetting progress. Where Atlantis remembered the stars and Egypt remembered the river, the West remembers only itself. Its monuments are built not to mirror heaven or to align with eternity, but to prove mastery, to proclaim dominance. It points to its skyscrapers, its weapons, its machines, and says, "Here is our eternity." But eternity does not live in towers of steel. It lives in balance. It lives in truth. It lives in the heart weighed against the feather. And so, even as the West boasts, I hear the scales tipping. The air is heavy with smoke, the rivers choked with poison, the soil drained of life. The oceans swell with fury, as though remembering the flood that swallowed Atlantis. The skies burn, and the forests cry out in silence as they fall. The West, like Atlantis, has learned to command the elements, but not to honor them. It wields fire in engines that race faster than thought, yet forgets that fire purifies as much as it destroys. It bends water into dams and pipes, yet forgets that water carries life only when respected. It harnesses air in turbines and wings of steel, yet forgets that breath is sacred. It devours the earth for ore and oil, yet forgets that earth is womb as much as grave. The same elements that once initiated me in Egypt are returning now to initiate the West, not in temples, but in storms, in droughts, in quakes, in fire. For the law is merciful but precise. What is not balanced will fall. Yet still I see hope. For in the midst of the noise, whispers remain. I see seekers sitting in silence, hearing within themselves the same flame I once discovered in darkness. I see visionaries speaking of consciousness as field, as energy, as vibration, remembering in new words what the adepts once chanted in stone halls. I see mystics returning from near death with visions of eternity, speaking the same truths Osiris revealed in Egypt's rites of resurrection. I see healers laying hands, chanting softly, humming notes that recall the original harmony. The adepts are not gone. They walk in new garments, speak in new tongues, yet their flame is the same. I also see the trials of relationship, love tested in ways both tender and fierce. For the new temples are not only of stone or steel, but of the heart. In this age, the greatest initiations often come not in pyramids, but in families, friendships, loves, losses. Karma plays itself out in marriages, in rivalries, in the bonds of children and parents. Each bond is still a mirror. Each encounter is still a classroom. The law has not changed. Only the setting has. Technology itself has become a new crystal fire. It carries the potential to heal and to connect, to spread wisdom and awaken compassion. But it also carries the temptation to numb, to distract, to dominate. The same vibration that once healed in Atlantis now glows in screens, hums in circuits, pulses through networks. The crystal has become circuit. The chant has become broadcast. The tower of stone has become tower of signal. The question remains unchanged. Will it serve balance or pride? Will it connect hearts or divide them? Will it awaken or enslave? I watch humanity at its crossroads and feel the same tremor I felt in Atlantis before the flood, in Egypt before the shadow spread. Pride whispers that we are eternal, that our power will never collapse, that our brilliance guarantees our survival. But the law whispers more softly, patiently, mercifully. Brilliance blinds if it is not tethered to balance. The ordeal of this age is collective. It is not one initiate walking into silence or lying in sarcophagus. It is entire nations trembling under the weight of imbalance. It is storms that strip away illusions, floods that cleanse, fires that purify, pandemics that silence the noise so the whisper can be heard again. These are not punishments. They are initiations. They are the law correcting, restoring, reminding. The West, like every soul, must pass through the ordeal. It must face its shadow, confess its pride, release its hunger, remember its flame. And you, reader, are not spectator. You are participant. You stand within the same temple I now walk. The walls are not carved of limestone, but of time. The chants are not sung by priests, but by rivers, by storms, by your own heartbeat. The Sphinx still asks its riddle. Will you live as beast or as divine? The scales of Mayat still weigh your heart. Is it heavy with lies or light with truth? The ordeal still waits. Will you surrender? Will you rise? Will you remember? Do not wait for monuments to guide you. Do not wait for adepts in robes to speak. The temple is within you. The adepts whisper in your silence. The flame burns in your chest. The law speaks in your choices. Every act is feather and scale. Every word is vibration. Every silence is initiation. You are Atlantis. You are Egypt. You are the West. You are the continuity. And so, as this book opens, I tell you truly, the story continues. Atlantis drowned. Egypt trembled. The West now rises, brilliant and blind, radiant and restless, proud and precarious. It stands at the same crossroads as every age before. The same whisper calls, will you repeat or will you remember? Guard the flame. Plant balance. Choose truth. The law is merciful. Nothing unfinished is lost. Every lesson deferred will return. The flame whispers still. And now, in the land of iron and smoke, of machines and noise, of pride and possibility, the flame waits for you. Chapter 1. The Return of the Flame. Continuity is the law. Nothing unfinished is lost. I knew this in Atlantis when the sea swallowed marble towers and crystal fire alike. I knew it in Egypt when the desert winds whispered across pyramids, when the Nile carried lamps of remembrance into the dark. And I know it still, clothed now in a new body, walking beneath skies that neither Atlanteans nor Egyptians could have imagined. The flame has returned. This land is louder, faster, more restless than any I have known. Its people speak of progress as though it were salvation, as though speed itself could erase the weight of memory. Iron rails stretch across plains. Engines roar. Towers rise higher than pyramids, yet their stone is not limestone but steel and glass. Rivers are dammed, forests cleared, mountains carved open for ore. To the uninitiated, it is triumph. To me, it is echo. I hear Atlantis in the hum of factories, in the glow of lights strung across endless streets, in the pride that proclaims, we are eternal. We have mastered nature. Nothing can undo us. I hear Egypt in the chants of protest and prayer, in the silence of seekers gathering in hidden rooms, in the balance that some still strive to remember. The past is not past. It flows like the river. It burns like the fire. It breathes like the wind. The West is not new. It is continuity clothed in iron. Memory does not arrive as visions of marble towers or stone temples. It arrives as ache. I walk through streets thick with smoke, and my chest tightens with the memory of Atlantis glowing before the flood. I watch machines devour coal and oil, and I remember priests in Egypt warning that fire unbalanced becomes destruction. I hear crowds roar for leaders who promise eternity, and I feel the tremor of Egypt's rulers declaring themselves gods. It is not the same. Yet it is the same. The forms change, the pattern remains. And yet, even in the noise, the flame whispers. I see it in the eyes of those who pause amid the rush, who listen to silence, who seek something beyond the roar. I see it in visionaries who look into the atom and find mystery, who look into the stars and find awe, who look into the heart and find love. I see it in mystics who return from the edge of death with stories of eternity, who whisper truths once spoken in Egyptian temples, once sung in Atlantean halls. The adepts walk still, clothed now as teachers, scientists, healers, poets. Their flame has never gone out. The return of the flame is not thunderous, it is quiet. It comes not in grand proclamations, but in whispers, in questions, in the stillness between breaths. I have felt it stir in me in moments small and unexpected. The hush of dawn before the city wakes, the silence that follows a song, the look in a stranger's eyes that feels older than flesh. Continuity moves quietly, weaving through noise, waiting to be noticed. And yet, it demands responsibility, for the flame is not comfort, it is test. To remember Atlantis and Egypt is not to indulge in nostalgia, it is to live differently now, to plant balance where pride whispers, to speak truth where silence tempts, to love with reverence where possession clings. Each choice is lamp upon the river, trembling but carried forward. The West is brilliant. It dazzles with invention, with power, with speed. But brilliance blinds if it is not tethered to humility. This is the lesson carried forward, the law unchanged. Atlantis forgot it. Egypt remembered for a time, then forgot again. And now the West stands at the same threshold. The flame has returned not only to remind, but to invite. I have walked through streets where the night is brighter than day, where lamps of fire line every road and towers shine like constellations captured on earth. To the people here, this is wonder. To me, it is echo. I remember Atlantis glowing with crystal fire, cities lit from within, shimmering like stars brought down to earth. And I remember how quickly the glow became blinding, how swiftly wonder became arrogance, how easily fire turned to flood. The West has captured the light again, but the question remains, will it guide or will it consume? I ride in machines that move faster than the falcon's flight, faster than the chariots of Egypt, faster than thought itself. The earth trembles beneath their wheels, the sky splits as wings of steel carve through clouds. People cheer at this conquest of distance. But I hear another echo. I remember Atlantis boasting that nothing was beyond its reach, that every sea could be crossed, every mountain conquered. I remember Egypt's rulers proclaiming that eternity bowed to their reigns. The boast is always the same. We have mastered nature. We are eternal. The fall is always the same as well. Yet not all is shadow. I see the flame alive in those who seek beyond conquest. A scientist gazes into the atom and finds mystery where he expected certainty. Whispers of a universe alive with intelligence. A poet stands beneath the stars and hears their silence as music, writing verses that echo the chants of Egyptian priests. A mystic, returned from death, speaks of light and love that enfolds all things, repeating the truths Osiris once revealed in the temples of Abydos. Continuity hums through them all. The language is new. The flame is the same. I sit with seekers who gather in quiet rooms away from the roar of machines. They close their eyes, breathe slowly, and listen. Some call it meditation, some prayer, some science of the mind. The name matters little. What matters is that they remember silence as teacher, just as I once did in chambers of stone. They listen until noise falls away, until flame stirs within, until the whisper is heard again. The temple has shifted from limestone to living rooms, But the law is unchanged. Silence strips, sound restores, love redeems. Still, the shadow grows. I hear it in the speeches of leaders who promise glory eternal, who stir fear to bind loyalty, who dress hunger in the garments of destiny. I see it in the endless hunger of markets, where profit outweighs compassion, where the feather of Mayat is ignored for the weight of gold. I feel it in the restless rush of the people, running as though speed itself could outrun consequence. The shadow always returns. It whispers the same as it did in Atlantis, the same as it did in Egypt. You are eternal. You are master. You are above the law. But the law is patient. It waits. It whispers. And when its whispers are ignored, it teaches through storms. The West already trembles. The rivers swell with poison. The skies burn. The soil thins. The earth remembers balance. The elements return as teachers, not in temples now, but in floods, in droughts, in fires, in quakes. They do not punish. They correct. The same trials I once endured as initiate now return as collective ordeal. And yet, there is mercy, always mercy. For even in collapse, continuity hums. Even in shadow, flame glows. Even in fall, redemption waits. The question is not whether the West will falter. Every civilization falters. The question is whether the soul within it will finally remember, whether the flame will be guarded, whether the lessons of Atlantis and Egypt will be lived rather than repeated. This is why the flame has returned. Not to dazzle, not to comfort, but to test. The West is initiation, as Atlantis was, as Egypt was. Its temples are not pyramids, but cities. Its chants are not hymns, but the hum of machines. Its trials are not sarcophagi, but relationships. Not chambers of silence, but moments of honesty. Not rituals of death and rebirth, but daily choices of compassion or pride. The law is merciful. Nothing unfinished is lost. Every lesson deferred will return. And here, now, it has. I whisper these truths not to frighten you, but to invite you. For you are not spectator. You are participant. The flame burns in you as it burns in me. You walk the same crossroads as I do, as Atlantis did, as Egypt did. Each act is lamp upon the river, trembling but enduring. Each word is weight upon the scale, heavy or light. Each choice is answer to the Sphinx. Will you crawl in ignorance, or walk in strength, or rise in wisdom? The return of the flame is not thunderous. It is quiet. It waits in your silence. It hums in your breath. It flickers in your compassion. It trembles in your truth. Guard it. Feed it. Carry it. For it is not only history that depends on it. It is continuity itself. Spiritual insights. The West is not new. It is continuity clothed in iron and smoke. Machines, lights, and towers are echoes of Atlantis's crystal fire and Egypt's stone monuments. The elements return as teachers, not in temples, but in storms, floods, and fire. The flame never vanishes. It whispers in silence, in love, in remembrance. The question is always personal. Will you repeat, or will you remember? Practices? Silence in the noise. Spend 5 minutes daily away from machines and voices. Listen until you hear the hum within. Whisper. The flame returns. Modern glyphs. Before sending a message, posting or speaking, ask, does this heal or harm? Remember, every word is vibration. Every glyph carries weight. Elemental awareness. When you see fire, water, air, or earth in daily life, pause and whisper. You are teacher. Show me balance. Lamp of continuity. Light a candle each evening. Whisper, Atlantis fell. Egypt trembled. I choose balance now. Reflection. Where do I see Atlantis repeating in the West? Pride? Brilliance? Blindness? What shadows whisper in me, disguised as progress or safety? How can I treat daily life, technology, relationships, choices, as temple initiations? Do I hear the flames whisper in my silence? And do I honor it? Chapter 2. The Land of Iron and Smoke. The first time I stood in a city of the West, I thought I had returned to Atlantis. Not in form, but in spirit. The marble towers of Keful were gone, but in their place rose columns of steel and glass, climbing higher than pyramids, gleaming against the sky. Streets stretched in straight lines like the grids of Atlantis, lit by lamps brighter than constellations. Carts moved without horses, engines roared louder than thunder. Smoke curled into the heavens in endless columns. The people looked upward and proclaimed, "We have conquered nature. We are eternal." The air was thick with the scent of coal and oil, sharp and choking. Factories roared like beasts, their chimneys vomiting fire and smoke into the sky. Men and women poured into these temples of industry at dawn, their faces weary, their bodies bent. Inside, the air was hotter, the noise deafening, machines pounding with the rhythm of iron hearts. Sparks flew like lightning, gears turned like jaws devouring flesh and time. The people labored not for balance, but for production, not for harmony, but for profit. To them, this was progress. To me, it was initiation, for I heard in the clatter of gears the hum of Atlantean crystals. I saw in the smoke the arrogance of rulers who believed themselves gods. I felt in the relentless rhythm the same blindness that had drowned a continent. Power had been reborn in iron. And as always, it was neither good nor evil. It waited for intention. Would it heal, or would it consume? I walked through these streets, my chest aching with both awe and dread. For there was wonder here. Lamps burning at night so no one need fear darkness. Ships of steel crossing oceans in days instead of months. Voices carried across wires, words flying faster than falcons. Knowledge spreading through books and papers so swiftly that even the poorest child might read truths once locked in temples. There was brilliance, undeniable brilliance, but brilliance blinds when it is not tethered to balance. I saw children working in the factories, their hands raw, their faces pale with exhaustion. I saw the rich seated in gilded halls, their tables overflowing, while the poor starved in alleys outside. I saw rivers blackened with waste, forests felled for timber, mountains gutted for ore. The land groaned, the air darkened, the people labored and suffered, and still they called it progress. The adepts had warned us. Civilizations do not collapse for lack of brilliance. They collapse when brilliance blinds them to balance. I whispered their words into the smoke, but the engines drowned them out. And yet, the flame still whispered. In the hum of machines, I heard a question. What are you building? Temple or tower? In the glow of lamps, I heard a reminder. Light is gift, not conquest. In the roar of trains, I heard a warning. Speed is nothing if it outruns the soul. Even here, in the land of iron and smoke, the law was alive, waiting to be remembered. The cities of the West pulsed with energy. By day, streets swarmed with workers, carriages of iron rushing past, merchants shouting above the noise, smoke rising in endless columns. By night, lamps burned as if stars had been pulled from the sky and nailed to every wall, every street, every tower. Darkness itself seemed banished. The people looked upon this brilliance and declared themselves masters of nature, conquerors of the world. But nature is not conquered. It waits. The rivers carried waste until fish no longer swam. The air grew heavy with soot until lungs burned with every breath. Forests fell, replaced by endless rows of factories. Mountains were torn open, their bones stripped bare. The earth gave and gave, but balance was ignored, gratitude forgotten. I remembered the adept's words in Egypt. What is not balanced will fall. What is not true will unravel. What is not humble will be stripped. In the land of iron and smoke, I saw the same law waiting to return. And yet, even amid the shadow, the flame flickered. I saw workers gathered in solidarity, demanding justice, speaking not of profit, but of fairness. I saw inventors whose eyes burned not with greed, but with vision, creating machines to ease burdens rather than exploit. I saw seekers writing poetry, their verses trembling with the ache of the soul, reminding all who read that life was more than labor, more than smoke. The flame lived still, fragile but steady, in those who remembered balance. One night, I walked beyond the city, where the air cleared and stars pierced the dark. I lay on the ground and gazed upward, the constellations familiar, unchanged. Orion still hunted, Sirius still shone bright, the Pleiades still shimmered in their cluster of light. The stars were the same that had watched Atlantis drown and Egypt tremble. They whispered the same truth. Civilizations rise and fall, but law endures. Stars outlast towers. Truth outlasts pride. The flame endures. I closed my eyes and listened to the silence between the hum of engines. I felt the same whisper I had felt in Atlantis, the same presence I had felt in Egypt. Guard the flame. Choose balance. Remember. The land of iron and smoke was not curse. It was chance. Another classroom, another test, another opportunity to plant differently than before. I returned to the city with new eyes. Every engine was a question. Every factory was an initiation. Every street was a temple. Would the West repeat Atlantis's blindness or Egypt's pride? Or would it finally remember? That choice belonged not only to nations, but to every soul. Each act of justice, each word of truth, each moment of humility was lamp upon the river, trembling but carried forward. The land of iron and smoke is brilliant. It is dangerous. It is sacred. It is our classroom now. Spiritual insights. Brilliance without balance blinds and destroys. Nature is not conquered. It waits. It corrects. Every civilization is a classroom. Collapse is correction, not cruelty. Even in the noise of industry, the flame whispers still, choose balance. The soul is tested not only in temples, but in streets, in machines, in daily choices. Practices. Temple in the city. The next time you walk through a noisy street, pause and whisper, "This too is temple. What lesson is being asked of me here?" Balance offering. Each day, do one small act that restores balance, to yourself, to another, to nature. Plant seed, share food, offer kindness. Smoke into silence. When overwhelmed by noise, close your eyes and listen for the silence beneath it. Whisper, "The flame endures." Justice as initiation. Stand for fairness in one small way, at work, in family, in community. Remember, every act of justice lightens the heart. Reflection. Where in my life am I blinded by brilliance, dazzled by progress, but forgetting balance? How do I see nature correcting imbalance around me? Do I resist or do I listen? Can I treat the city itself as temple? Every engine and street as initiation? What small flame of balance am I called to guard in the land of iron and smoke? Chapter 3. Voices of Memory. Memory does not return as history. It returns as ache. It whispers in the marrow. It trembles in the silence between breaths. It flickers in the eyes of strangers who feel older than their years. Civilizations forget, but the soul does not. And so, though Atlantis was drowned and Egypt buried in sand, their voices speak still. In the West, I hear them everywhere. Sometimes they speak through science. A physicist stares into the atom, expecting certainty, and instead finds mystery. Particles behaving as though aware of being watched, matter dissolving into probability, the universe revealed as field of energy more fluid than solid. He calls it quantum mechanics, but I hear the echo of Atlantis, where adepts once taught that matter was vibration, that thought itself shaped reality. The words are different, the language clothed in mathematics, but the memory is the same. Sometimes they speak through psychology. A doctor listens to the dreams of his patients and finds patterns older than their personal stories. Archetypes of hero and shadow, mother and sage, serpent and flame. He names it the collective unconscious. I hear instead the chants of Egypt, the myths of Osiris and Isis, Set and Horus, not as history, but as maps of the soul. The language has changed, the temples replaced by books and clinics, but the memory hums beneath it. Sometimes they speak through death itself. A man's heart stops, and he rises out of his body, seeing light, feeling love vaster than oceans, hearing music older than stars. He returns, changed, unable to live as before. He calls it a near-death experience. I remember lying in stone sarcophagi, breath shallow, heart pounding, priests chanting, until flame within revealed itself eternal. Different chambers, same lesson. Death is not grave, it is doorway. The voices of memory are everywhere. In the hum of machines, in the silence of forests, in the words of poets, in the visions of mystics, in the calculations of scientists. They are not new. They are old, dressed in garments of the present. Atlantis speaks, Egypt whispers, continuity hums, and yet most do not hear. For the West is loud. Engines roar, markets shout, leaders boast, screens flash. The noise drowns the whisper, but some do hear. Some pause long enough to feel the ache of déjà vu, to sense the pattern repeating, to wonder why machines glow like crystals, why skyscrapers rise like pyramids, why progress feels both dazzling and hollow. They cannot name it, but they feel it. Memory stirring. I have felt it too. Walking through a city lit brighter than constellations, I felt a heaviness in my chest, as though I had stood there before. Riding in a train thundering across plains, I remembered the rush of Atlantean ships cutting seas with crystal fire. Listening to a scientist describe the universe as energy, I heard again the adepts of Egypt chanting, "As above, so below." Each moment was mirror. Each marvel was echo. The voices of memory do not only speak through brilliance, they speak through shadow as well. In the cries of war, I hear Atlantis arming its fountains for destruction. In the speeches of rulers promising eternity, I hear Egypt's pharaohs declaring themselves gods. In the smoke of factories choking the air, I smell Atlantis burning before the flood, Egypt trembling before collapse. Memory warns as much as it inspires. The adepts told us, memory is not indulgence. It is responsibility. To remember Atlantis is not to grieve it endlessly. To remember Egypt is not to worship stone. It is to see the mirror they hold before us and choose differently now. The West is offered the same chance. Memory whispers, "You have been here before. Do not repeat. Remember." And so, when I walk through the land of iron and smoke, I listen for the voices of memory. They are not always clear. Sometimes they are faint as breeze through reeds. Sometimes they roar like thunder. But always they invite. Always they they call. The question is whether we will hear them, whether we will pause long enough in our noise to feel the ache, to recognize the déjà vu, to honor the whisper. The voices of memory live in you too, in every longing you cannot explain, in every dream that feels older than your life, in every bond with someone you swear you have known before, in every fear that trembles beyond reason, every joy that feels eternal. These are not accidents, they are echoes. They are whispers of continuity. They are reminders that the soul is older than the body, that the lessons of the past live in the marrow of the present. I tell you this, listen, for memory speaks not only of what was, but of what will be if we do not remember. It warns, it guides, it calls, and if you listen, you will hear Atlantis humming in the machines, Egypt chanting in the myths, continuity whispering in your own breath. The flame is not lost. It whispers still. Memory is not confined to individuals. It rises in cultures, in movements, in generations who feel restless without knowing why. It returns in sudden hunger for meaning, in collective cries for justice, in waves of creativity that feel more like remembrance than invention. Civilizations, too, are haunted. The West, beneath its machines and noise, is restless because memory stirs in its soul. I see it in the seekers who turn from smoke-filled cities to forests and rivers, who listen to the earth as Egypt once did to the Nile. They say they are environmentalists, but I hear in their devotion the echo of Ma'at, the law of balance. I see it in movements for equality, in voices demanding that no one be weighed heavier than another. They call it justice, but I hear the scales again, the heart measured against the feather. I see it in communities gathering not for profit, but for prayer, for song, for silence. They call it spirituality, but I hear the same chants once sung in Egypt's halls, the same truths whispered in Atlantis' temples. Memory does not always return as recognition. It often returns as longing. Why else do people stand before ancient ruins and weep, though they know no names, no histories? Why else does the sight of stars stir something deeper than awe, something like homesickness? Why else do we dream of floods and towers falling, though we have never seen them in this life? These are not fantasies. They are whispers. They are the voices of memory calling across ages. The West often mistakes these whispers for imagination. A child sees a vision of light, and we call it fantasy. A dream carries echoes of another age, and we call it coincidence. A bond with a stranger feels ancient, and we dismiss it as illusion. But those who remember know better. Imagination is the doorway of memory. Dreams are maps. Bonds are karmic threads woven again and again until balance is restored. I have seen this in myself. Standing in a library filled with books, I felt the same reverence I once felt in Egypt's temples of papyrus. Hearing a symphony swell, I remembered the chants of the adepts, their tones shaking marrow into harmony. Watching a rocket pierce the sky, I felt the ache of Atlantis, its ships of crystal fire cutting through the seas. Every marvel, every wonder, every danger is echo. The flame whispers, "Do not forget what you have already learned. Do not repeat what you have already lost." Yet memory is not burden alone. It is also promise. To remember Atlantis' brilliance is to know what is possible when wisdom and power align. To remember Egypt's balance is to know what harmony feels like, even if fleeting. The West does not need to invent its future. It needs to remember it. The flame of continuity is not only warning, it is invitation. And so, I listen for the voices of memory not only in shadow, but in light. I hear them in scientists who speak of consciousness as field, who describe the universe as song. I hear them in poets who remind us that love is eternal, that death is doorway, that the soul is flame. I hear them in ordinary people who pause to care, who choose kindness over pride, who speak truth when silence tempts. These are the adepts, reborn, carrying the flame forward. The voices of memory live in you, too. They rise when you stand at a crossroads and feel the weight of choice press harder than reason explains. They stir when you meet someone and know them before they speak. They whisper when you dream of places you have never seen, yet ache to return to. They remind you that you are not only body, not only this age, not only this land. You are continuity. You are flame. Do not dismiss these whispers. They are your inheritance. Atlantis and Egypt live within you. Their lessons call to you now, asking, will you repeat or will you remember? The West stands at its crossroads. So do you. The voices of memory will not be silenced. They will whisper until you answer. Spiritual insights. Memory does not only return as vision, it returns as ache, longing, déjà vu, and collective restlessness. Civilizations remember through movements of justice, balance, and awakening. Imagination, dreams, and bonds are often the language of memory. The West does not need to invent its salvation. It needs to remember what it already knows. Every soul carries the flame of continuity. The question is not whether memory whispers, but whether we listen. Practices. Listening to longing. Notice any ache, déjà vu, or longing you cannot explain. Instead of dismissing it, whisper, "This is memory. What are you asking me to remember?" Temple of the everyday. When reading a book, listening to music, or walking in nature, pause and ask, what ancient echo stirs here? Dream journal. Record your dreams for 1 week. Look for recurring symbols or places. Ask, is this memory disguised as story? Bond awareness. Choose one person who feels strangely familiar. Reflect. What lesson, unfinished before, might be returning through this bond? Reflection. What memories stir in me as longing, déjà vu, or ache? Do I treat imagination as fantasy or as doorway of memory? Where in the West's brilliance do I hear echoes of Atlantis and Egypt? How might I honor the voices of memory in my own choices? Chapter 4. The Seduction of Progress. The West does not worship gods carved of stone. It worships progress. Its temples are factories and laboratories. Its altars are machines. Its hymns are the hum of engines. Every invention is hailed as miracle. Every new discovery proclaimed as salvation. The people bow not before idols, but before the promise that tomorrow will be faster, brighter, richer than today. Progress is their god, and it dazzles them. I have seen men stare at wires carrying voices across oceans, their eyes wide with awe, convinced that they have conquered distance itself. I have watched women hold lamps that glow without flame, marveling that they have captured light. I have stood before towers of steel stretching higher than pyramids, their builders declaring, "We have mastered eternity." Each marvel leaves the people breathless. Each wonder blinds them further. For brilliance, untethered from balance, is always seduction. Atlantis fell into the same trance. Crystal fire healed the sick, lifted the weary, powered wonders unimagined. But soon the people grew restless. Healing was not enough. They wanted spectacle. Spectacle was not enough. They wanted power. Power was not enough. They wanted dominion. The fountains that once soothed became weapons. The towers that once sang became prisons. Pride whispered, "We are gods," and the sea rose to answer. Egypt, too, was seduced. The pyramids rose as mirrors of the stars, temples aligned with eternity. But rulers looked upon them and declared themselves divine, eternal as Orion, immortal as Sirius. Priests whispered of secret powers reserved for the few. Scribes carved curses as easily as blessings. Balance gave way to pride. Truth was replaced by certainty. The Nile continued to flow, but its people forgot its lesson. Surrender, not control, sustains. Now the West stands at the same threshold. Its brilliance is undeniable. Machines fly faster than falcons. Voices circle the globe in seconds. Knowledge is spread across continents in moments. Disease once fatal is cured. Distances once impossible are crossed. Darkness itself is banished with a switch. Progress proclaims itself eternal. But I see the shadow already whispering beneath it. Rivers poisoned, forests falling, skies burning. People enslaved not by chains, but by hunger for more. More speed, more wealth, more power. The seduction is the same. The pattern repeats. Progress promises safety, but it delivers restlessness. It tells the people, if you build higher, faster, brighter, you will be secure. Yet their hearts remain anxious, their souls hungry. Each invention feeds appetite but not meaning. Each marvel dazzles but does not satisfy. The more they build, the more hollow they feel. It is the same hunger that once consumed Atlantis, the same blindness that once tempted Egypt. And I, too, feel the temptation. For progress is seductive not only to crowds, but to souls. I walk through a city lit brighter than stars and feel awe stir in me. I ride in a machine that outruns wind and marvel at its power. I read words carried across oceans and feel wonder. And in those moments, pride whispers, this time will be different. This time we are wiser. This time progress will save us. The whisper is soft, but I hear its echo. I know where it leads. The adepts warned us, power amplifies what you bring. Progress reveals your heart. If your heart is heavy with pride, progress will destroy. If your heart is light with truth, progress will serve. The West has not yet learned this. It worships progress as savior rather than treating it as mirror. It bows to the machine as master rather than recognizing it as test. And so imbalance grows. The law waits, patient, merciful, exact. One evening I stood on a bridge as trains thundered below, their engines blazing fire into the night. The river beneath glowed faintly with oil, its surface rippling with light that was not starlight but flame. Above, the towers gleamed with electricity, each window a square of brilliance. Around me, people marveled, but I heard only the whisper. What is not balanced will fall. I whispered it back into the smoke, a prayer lost in the roar of engines, but true nonetheless. The seduction of progress is this. It convinces you that the law no longer applies. It tells you that you have escaped consequence, that your brilliance will shield you, that your power will endure. But the scales of Mayat still weigh the heart. The river still flows. The stars still shine. The law still corrects. Progress does not erase law. It only amplifies the test. Progress does not seduce with chains. It seduces with promises. It whispers that life will be easier, safer, longer, richer. And in some ways, it delivers. The sick are healed, the hungry fed, the weary carried farther than their feet could travel. But beneath every gift is the shadow of appetite. Each cure births new hunger. Each invention stirs new desire. The more the West advances, the more it craves. The more it craves, the less it remembers. I have seen families sit together, yet their eyes fixed not upon each other, but upon glowing screens, each face bathed in blue light, each soul alone though surrounded. I have seen children who know more facts than sages of old, yet their hearts ache with emptiness, their spirits restless. I have seen leaders measure worth not by wisdom or kindness, but by numbers on paper, digits in machines, illusions of wealth that crumble like sand. This is progress when it is worshipped as God. It gives, but it devours. And yet the flame still burns. For the law is merciful. Progress itself is not curse. It is mirror. It shows what you bring. If you bring greed, it amplifies greed. If you bring fear, it amplifies fear. But if you bring love, it amplifies love. If you bring compassion, it amplifies compassion. The machine is not master, it is servant. The question is whether we remember this. The seduction lies not in the machine, but in the heart that clings to it. The West believes its inventions eternal, but already they crumble. Wires corrode, engines rust, towers fall. The people scramble to replace them, always building higher, faster, louder. But no tower escapes time. No machine escapes law. The only eternity lies in balance, in truth, in the flame that does not rust, does not decay, does not fall. I remember Atlantis boasting that its fountains would never fail, that its power was unending. Days later, the sea rose and silenced them. I remember Egypt proclaiming its monuments eternal, its rulers divine. Centuries later, the desert swallowed them. And now the West proclaims itself master of nature, builder of eternal towers, conqueror of death itself. I hear the same boast, I feel the same tremor. The seduction is unchanged, but so is the invitation. For progress need not destroy. It can heal. It can serve. It can carry the flame farther than ever before. The same circuits that numb the soul can also awaken it, spreading truth, connecting hearts, carrying wisdom across oceans. The same machines that devour can also relieve burden, ease labor, free time for silence and remembrance. The same inventions that blind can also illuminate. The question is never the machine. The question is always the heart. I stood once in a hall of glass and steel, light flooding through walls that seemed to vanish into sky. Voices echoed across wires, faces appeared on glowing screens, distant lands spoke as though next door. I felt the temptation rise in me. Surely this is salvation. Surely this is eternity. And then memory returned. I saw the crystal towers of Atlantis, shimmering with the same promise, drowned by the same pride. I heard the priests of Egypt proclaiming their monuments eternal, their voices now dust. I placed my hand against the glass and whispered, "Do not repeat. Remember, progress is not salvation. It is invitation. The West stands at the same threshold as every age before. Its brilliance dazzles, its shadow grows, its flame whispers still. The seduction is strong, but the law is stronger. The question is not whether the West will collapse. All civilizations collapse. The question is whether we will learn, whether we will carry the flame through collapse into continuity, whether we will plant differently this time. Progress alone cannot save us, but remembrance can. Balance can. Truth can. The seduction of progress is powerful, but the whisper of continuity is patient. And in the end, the whisper always returns. Spiritual insights. Progress is neither savior nor curse. It is mirror, amplifying what we bring. Brilliance blinds when it is worshipped as God. Balance alone sustains. Machines rust, towers fall, inventions decay. Only truth and balance endure. Every age boasts of eternity. Every age is corrected by law. Progress is invitation, not salvation. The flame whispers still, remember. Practices. Mirror of progress. Choose one invention you use daily. Pause before using it and whisper, What is this amplifying in me? Greed or love? Distraction or remembrance? Sacred pause. Each day, step away from machines for 10 minutes. Sit in silence. Listen for the whisper beneath the noise. Balance offering. For every act of consumption, offer an act of restoration. Plant, share, give. Balance is not abstract, it is lived. Flame dedication. Before working, whisper, "May this progress serve balance. May it carry the flame, not blind it." Reflection. Where has progress blinded me with brilliance? What hunger do I feed with machines that could instead be used for compassion? Do I treat progress as salvation or as mirror? How can I carry the flame through the noise of invention without letting it be drowned? Chapter 5. The Hunger of the Machine. The machine was born to serve. That is what they told themselves. A tool to ease burden, to shorten labor, to multiply strength. And for a time, it did. Wheels turned faster than hands could spin. Engines carried more than backs could bear. Wires carried voices farther than legs could walk. At first, the people marveled at their freedom. But soon they discovered the truth. The machine does not serve without price. For the machine is never satisfied. It hungers. Factories rose like temples, their chimneys belching smoke into the sky, their floors trembling with endless gears. Men and women poured into them at dawn, leaving only at night, their bodies bent, their eyes dulled. They had built the machine to serve them, but now they served it. They fed it coal and iron, oil and sweat, flesh and time. The machine devoured hours, devoured days, devoured lives, and still it hungered. Cities swelled with noise, trains thundered, carriages clattered, engines roared. The streets were never still. People rushed as though chased, each one feeding some machine, at work, at home, even in sleep. The hum of gears followed them everywhere. The air grew thick with soot, the rivers with waste, the soil with ash. Yet still they built more. The more they fed the machine, the hungrier it became. This hunger was not only in the factories, it crept into the spirit. The people began to measure themselves not by truth or balance, but by productivity. A man was not asked, "Is your heart light?" but "How much have you made?" A woman was not asked, "Do you walk in balance?" but "How much have you given?" Children grew to believe their worth lay not in soul, but in output. The machine devoured their humanity as surely as it devoured coal. I watched this with both awe and dread, for the brilliance was undeniable. Machines stitched garments faster than hands, carried food farther than caravans, cured illnesses once fatal. But each miracle carried shadow. The people became dependent, restless, insatiable. Work multiplied rather than diminished. The hours lengthened, the pace quickened, the soul thinned. The hunger of the machine was mirror of the hunger in the people. It amplified what they carried. Their greed became industry. Their fear became consumption. Their pride became conquest. The machine did not invent these hungers. It revealed them, magnified them, embodied them. And the people, dazzled, mistook the mirror for master. The adepts had warned us. The tools you create reflect your heart. The more power you give them, the louder your reflection becomes. Atlantis forgot this. Its fountains echoed not love but pride, not healing but hunger, until the sea rose to silence them. Egypt forgot this. Its temples mirrored not balance but dominion, until the desert swallowed them. And now the West forgets this, bowing to machines as if they were gods, even as the machines strip them bare. I stood once in a factory, its floor shaking with gears, its air thick with smoke. The men there moved like shadows, eyes empty, bodies bent. The foreman shouted, The machines roared, the hours stretched. I felt the same ache I had felt in Atlantis before the fall, in Egypt before the shadow spread. Pride had built these engines, hunger fed them, blindness worshipped them. And I whispered to myself, this is not progress, this is initiation. For the machine is teacher as much as devourer. It reveals what we have not yet faced. Its hunger is our hunger, its restlessness our restlessness, its speed our fear of silence. It strips away the illusion that power alone can save. It confronts us with the truth. Unless balance guides us, we will always be consumed by what we create. The West calls this age industrial. I call it initiatory. For the machine is not master, it is mirror. It shows us the shadow we refuse to see, and until we see it, its hunger will not end. The machine grows not because it must, but because we demand it. Each invention feeds another appetite. The loom becomes the factory, the cart becomes the train, the candle becomes the lamp, the letter becomes the wire. Each step dazzles, each step accelerates, and each step asks silently, what hunger are you feeding? Few pause to answer. They rush forward, consumed by their own craving for more. I have walked through streets where silence has vanished, every corner filled with noise. Engines roar, bells ring, hammers strike, voices shout to be heard above it all. The people no longer know stillness. When night comes, instead of rest, the lamps blaze brighter, as though the stars themselves had been captured and imprisoned in glass. Children grow beneath this false day, forgetting the rhythm of darkness and dawn. Sleep thins, nerves fray, the heart grows restless. The machine does not rest, so neither do its servants. In this endless rush, something sacred is lost. The West measures time not by the rising of stars or the flowing of rivers, but by the turning of gears, the ticking of clocks, the schedules of trains. Time becomes commodity, divided into units, sold and purchased, squeezed and devoured. A day is no longer a gift but a quota. The sun rises not as miracle, but as deadline. The soul aches beneath this weight, longing for the slower pulse of river and star. But the machine allows no pause. Its hunger devours not only nature, but eternity itself, replacing wonder with urgency. And yet, the law is merciful. The hunger of the machine is not only curse, it is reflection. It shows us our own insatiability. It reveals our refusal to rest, our fear of silence, our distrust of surrender. The machine is mirror, holding up to us the truth we do not want to see, that our greed is endless, our pride bottomless, our restlessness unceasing. It asks us again and again, will you feed me, or will you remember balance? I have seen both answers. I have seen men enslaved by their machines, bent and broken, dying with nothing but soot in their lungs and calluses on their hands. I have seen rulers boasting of their engines of war, their weapons of fire, their machines of conquest, only to be consumed by the very powers they unleashed. But I have also seen visionaries use machines to carry food to the hungry, knowledge to the poor, connection to the lonely. I have seen seekers use wires and waves to spread wisdom, to remind others of silence, to share the flame across oceans. The machine, like crystal fire in Atlantis, like chants in Egypt, waits for intention. It amplifies what we bring. The danger lies in forgetting this. When the people bow to the machine as master, when they treat it as savior, when they allow it to dictate their rhythm, they are no longer creators, but captives. They live to serve what they built. Their hearts grow heavy, their souls thin, their eyes empty. This is the hunger of the machine devouring its makers. But the invitation lies in remembering. When the people pause to ask, what is this for? Whom does this serve? What intention am I amplifying? Then the machine becomes tool again, servant again, mirror again. Its hunger is curbed, its shadow transformed into light. The machine itself does not change. The heart does. I recall the adept's words, "What you build will one day test you. What you master will one day master you. Unless you live in balance, your creations will consume you." Atlantis ignored this, and the sea rose. Egypt ignored this, and the desert swallowed it. The West now stands in the same test. Its machines roar louder than chants. Its towers rise higher than pyramids. Its confidence blazes brighter than any crystal. The question is unchanged. Will you repeat, or will you remember? One evening I stood at the edge of a rail yard, engines lined like beasts of iron, their fires glowing in the dark. Workers hurried to feed them coal, their faces streaked with soot. The engines roared, smoke rising like incense into the night. I watched and whispered, "This too is temple." For every engine was altar, every worker was priest, every fire was offering. The only question was, offering to what? To greed or to compassion? To pride or to remembrance? The machine itself was neutral. The sacrifice was intention. And so the hunger of the machine is not curse, but initiation. It forces us to see what we serve. It forces us to ask, whom do I feed with my labor, my time, my love? If the answer is pride, the machine will devour us. If the answer is balance, the machine will serve us. The hunger is not its own. It is ours. The West believes it has conquered nature, that its machines will outlast rivers and forests. But rivers still flow, stars still shine, silence still waits. The law does not bend. The law does not hunger. The law simply endures. And in the end, when machines rust and towers fall, the flame will whisper again, "You are not body alone. You are not machine. You are soul, eternal, awake." Spiritual insights. The machine is not master, but mirror. Its hunger is our hunger, amplified. Progress without balance enslaves, turning creators into captives. Time is sacred, but the machine reduces it to commodity. The soul longs for eternity. The law is merciful. Every invention is test. Every tool is teacher. The hunger of the machine asks, whom do you serve? Pride or balance? Practices. Pause before feeding. Before using a machine, computer, phone, engine, pause and whisper, "What hunger am I feeding now?" Sacred rest. Each day, set aside 1 hour with no machines. Let silence restore balance. Whisper, "I am not the machine. I am flame." Balance. Dedication. Choose one use of technology each day to serve compassion, sharing kindness, knowledge, or connection. Temple of iron. When you see a machine, imagine it as altar. Ask, what intention am I offering here? Reflection. Do I serve the machine, or does it serve me? What hunger drives my use of technology? Fear, greed, distraction, or love? How has the machine devoured my time, my silence, my heart, and how can I reclaim them? Can I treat the machine not as master, but as teacher, showing me what I must face within? Chapter 6. The Shadow in the West. Every age has its shadow. Atlantis carried it in the hunger for dominion, turning fountains of healing into weapons of conquest. Egypt carried it in the arrogance of rulers declaring themselves gods, in priests twisting chants into curses, in scribes carving words meant to bind instead of bless. And now the West carries it too, clothed not in crystal fire or stone monuments, but in armies, markets, and machines. The shadow in the West is vast. It whispers in the boardrooms where wealth is hoarded while millions starve. It roars in the speeches of leaders who stir fear into fire, promising safety through domination. It hums in the endless production of weapons, bombs that burn brighter than 1,000 suns, engines of death more powerful than anything Atlantis ever dared. It hides in plain sight, disguised as progress, as patriotism, as security. But its face is the same: pride, greed, arrogance, domination. I have walked through streets where children begged for bread while towers gleamed with wealth. I have seen fields stripped bare for profit, rivers poisoned for industry, forests felled for gain. The shadow devours without shame, its appetite endless. When challenged, it speaks with smooth voice. This is the price of progress. This is the cost of safety. This is the way of the world. But I remember the councils of Atlantis saying the same as they armed their fountains. I remember the priests of Egypt saying the same as they bound truth in secrecy. Always the excuse is the same. The shadow is necessary. The shadow is good. But shadow is never good. It is mirror. It reveals. It exposes. It demands recognition. Denied, it grows. Faced, it teaches. The adepts warned us. The shadow returns in every age, for it lives in every soul. Do not curse it. See it, I try to hold this, but when I stand before the enormity of the West's shadow, my heart trembles. For it is not small. Its armies march across continents. Its bombs split atoms and burn cities. Its markets enslave millions in quiet chains of debt and labor. Its machines churn day and night, feeding hunger that cannot be filled. The shadow in the West is not hidden in corners. It is enthroned. And yet, even here, the flame whispers. For shadow itself is initiation. To see it is to be called. To ignore it is to repeat. I hear the whisper when I look into the eyes of those who resist, those who march for justice, those who speak truth at cost, those who refuse to bow to fear. They are small against the machine, small against the empire, but their hearts are light. And law weighs hearts, not armies. I know the shadow is not only in governments and markets, it is in me too. It rises in my silence when truth would cost me comfort. It stirs in my longing for recognition, in my fear of rejection, in my hunger to possess. The West's shadow is collective because it is personal. Each soul feeds it by refusing to face its own darkness. Each silence builds its throne. And so, I try to face it. When fear tempts me to remain quiet, I whisper, neutrality is not balance. When greed tempts me to hoard, I whisper, the feather weighs light, not heavy. When pride tempts me to boast, I whisper, truth needs no ornament. These whispers are small, but they are choices. And choices are the only way shadow is redeemed. The shadow in the West is vast, but the flame is patient. And even in the darkest shadow, the whisper returns. The West is proud of its light, but it fears its own darkness. It celebrates its machines, its towers, its armies, but it hides its shadow behind flags and slogans. It declares itself free while its people are bound to hunger that never ends. It declares itself just while it exploits the weak. It declares itself eternal while the earth beneath it groans in protest. The shadow is not hidden, it is paraded as triumph. Yet those with memory recognize it for what it is: the same blindness that drowned Atlantis, the same arrogance that withered Egypt. I have seen this shadow most vividly in war. Armies marching not for defense, but for conquest. Weapons forged not to protect, but to dominate. Men celebrating destruction as though it were glory, forgetting that every enemy slain is mirror of themselves. The shadow whispers, power is safety. Violence is strength. Domination is destiny. and the people cheer, blind to the scales tipping heavier and heavier with blood. But shadow does not live only in battlefields. It lives in quiet apathy. It lives in the citizen who sees injustice and shrugs, who knows truth but stays silent, who feels compassion but turns away. This, too, feeds the shadow. Not only the bombs, but the silences. Not only the tyrants, but the indifferent. The adepts warned us. The shadow grows strongest, not when it is seen, but when it is ignored. And so the West trembles under its own weight. Its wealth is immense, yet so is its poverty. Its knowledge is vast, yet so is its ignorance. Its towers gleam with light, yet its streets echo with despair. The shadow feeds on this imbalance. It thrives on extremes. It devours harmony. And still, the people call it progress. Yet even here, I see the flame flicker. I see it in the protester who faces prison to speak truth. I see it in the healer who tends the poor without asking for coin. I see it in the artist who carves beauty into the world though no one pays him to. I see it in the child who asks, "Why should we hate them if they are like us?" The shadow is vast, but it cannot erase the flame. It can only test it, reveal it, sharpen it. For the law is merciful. Shadow is not punishment, it is mirror. It reveals what we have not yet faced. It forces us to choose. Will we bow to fear, or will we rise in love? Will we feed greed, or will we plant balance? Will we remain silent, or will we speak? Shadow is teacher disguised as threat. It asks not for despair, but for courage. I confess, I falter. When I see the enormity of the West's shadow, its armies, its weapons, its greed, I feel small. I feel as though nothing I do could matter. But then I remember the scales. They do not weigh armies, they weigh hearts. And a single heart, light with truth, can tip eternity. That is the mercy of Mayat, that every soul matters, that every act counts, that every whisper is heard. And so I whisper back into the shadow, you will not silence the flame. You will not blind the memory. You will not conquer balance. The shadow laughs, but the flame burns still. For the shadow is not eternal. The flame is. The West must face its shadow as Atlantis did, as Egypt did. The question is not whether the shadow exists. It always exists. The question is whether we will see it, whether we will name it, whether we will choose differently this time. The law waits, patient, merciful, exact. Spiritual insights. The shadow in the West is not hidden. It thrives in pride, greed, violence, and silence. Shadow is not curse, but mirror. It reveals what is unbalanced, what is ignored, what must be faced. The greatest danger is not shadow itself, but apathy, the refusal to see, the refusal to act. The scales weigh hearts, not armies. A single act of truth carries eternal weight. Shadow is teacher disguised as threat, calling the soul to courage. Practices. Shadow recognition. Write down one injustice you see daily. Whisper, this too is shadow. I see you. Act of courage. Do one small act that resists the shadow. Speak truth. Show kindness. Refuse greed. Small choices tip scales. Mirror within. When anger, fear, or pride rise in you, pause and ask, is this the same shadow I see in the world? Face it with honesty. Flame whisper. Each night, light a candle. Whisper into the flame. The shadow is not eternal. The flame endures. Reflection. Where do I see the West's shadow most vividly, and how do I respond? Do I remain silent in the face of injustice, Or do I speak even trembling? How does the shadow live in me, and how can I face it with honesty? What small act of truth can I plant today to tip the scales toward balance? Chapter 7. Whispers of Continuity. Even in the loudest age, whispers endure. The roar of machines cannot silence them. The glare of towers cannot blind them. The pride of rulers cannot erase them. They pass quietly from heart to heart, from dream to dream, from silence to silence. They are the whispers of continuity, the same voices that spoke in Atlantis before the fall, that murmured in Egypt before the shadow spread, now breathing again in the West. These whispers do not arrive in temples of stone. They arrive in laboratories, in art studios, in forests, in bedrooms where seekers sit alone with questions that will not leave them. They speak to physicists staring into particles that refuse to behave as expected, reminding them that matter is not solid, but vibration, that reality itself hums like the chants of old. They speak to psychologists listening to dreams, guiding them to archetypes older than memory, reminding them that myths are maps, not stories. They speak to poets who wake at dawn with words burning in their throats, words they cannot claim as their own, words that echo chants sung thousands of years ago. I have seen these whispers ignite entire movements. A man walks into the mountains and hears silence so vast it remakes him. He returns preaching reverence for the earth, and millions listen. A woman slips into death for a moment and returns with visions of light, love, eternity. She writes them down, and seekers around the world awaken to remembrance. A child looks at the stars and feels homesickness, unable to explain why, but her eyes carry memory beyond this lifetime. The whispers move quietly, but they move everywhere. The West prides itself on forgetting, but forgetting is never complete. The soul remembers. Even when cultures bury wisdom beneath profit, the whispers find their way through cracks. They call to those who cannot be numbed by noise, who cannot be dazzled by brilliance, who cannot be silenced by fear. They call to those who ache for more than machines, more than wealth, more than conquest. They call to you. And when you hear them, you know. It may come as déjà vu when you walk among ancient ruins and feel tears without reason. It may come as a dream of floods or towers, strange and vivid, though you have never lived them. It may come as love at first sight, recognition too deep for coincidence. It may come as hunger for silence, for balance, for something unnamed. However it comes, you know. The whisper of continuity is not imagination. It is memory stirring. The adepts said, "Truth cannot be destroyed. It hides, it sleeps, it waits, but it endures." I see this proven again and again. When rulers silence sages, the whispers move into poets. When merchants corrupt rituals, the whispers move into dreamers. When temples crumble, the whispers move into forests, rivers, stars. No age is without them. The only question is whether we listen. I have met seekers who cannot explain why they are restless, why success leaves them hollow, why silence calls to them more than noise. They believe something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong. They are hearing continuity. They are remembering. Their hunger is not sickness, but invitation. The soul is reminding them of what civilizations forget, that progress without balance is blindness, that pride without humility is collapse, that shadow is teacher, not master. The West believes itself eternal. The whispers remind it otherwise. The West bows to machines. The whispers remind it of silence. The West worships speed. The whispers remind it of patience. The West clings to power. The whispers remind it of humility. Slowly, quietly, these reminders spread. And though they are not shouted from towers, they carry farther than any broadcast. For truth is not measured by volume. but by weight. A whisper of continuity outweighs 1,000 boasts of pride. The whispers of continuity do not belong to one person, one movement, or one faith. They appear wherever the flame finds space to breathe. They appear in the visions of mystics, in the chants of monks, in the prayers of mothers, in the laughter of children. They appear in the silence of forests, in the rhythm of oceans, in the vastness of night skies. They are the same whispers that guided Atlantis before it drowned, the same whispers that steadied Egypt before it faltered. They rise again because the law is merciful. What is unfinished is offered once more. I hear them in the gatherings of seekers who sit in circles, candles burning low, sharing stories of light seen beyond death. I hear them in the voices of teachers who remind their students that love is not weakness, but the highest law. I hear them in the scientists who dare to say that consciousness may be more fundamental than matter, echoing truths once carved into Egyptian stone. As above, so below. As within, so without. The whispers weave themselves into movements of compassion. They inspire those who feed the hungry, tend the sick, protect the earth. They remind us that service is not burden, but balance, that giving lightens the heart, that love is not sentiment, but law. In every age, whispers of continuity anchor the remnant, the souls who choose balance even when the crowd chooses pride. And I hear them too in you, in your longing for something beyond noise, in your ache for meaning no machine can provide, in your restless hunger for silence, for truth, for love. These are not weaknesses, they are memories. They are the flame whispering that you have walked this road before, that you carry within you the lessons of collapse and the invitation of renewal. The West may worship progress, but within its temples of iron and glass, within its machines of noise and speed, the whispers move quietly. They call to the weary worker, to the lonely child, to the disillusioned leader, to the ordinary soul who pauses long enough to listen. They say, "You are more than servant of machine. You are flame, eternal. Awake. Civilizations forget. The soul remembers. Continuity ensures it. The whispers of continuity are not prophecy. They are not prediction. They are remembrance. They tell us not what will happen, but what always happens when pride blinds and balance is forgotten. They remind us that the fall is not condemnation, but correction. That collapse is not cruelty, but invitation. That every age is classroom, every soul is initiate, every silence is temple. And so I tell you, do not dismiss the whispers. Do not drown them in noise. Do not fear their ache. They are not fantasy. They are flame. They are continuity calling you to remember. The West is brilliant. The West is blinded. The West is at crossroads. And through it all, the whispers move. Patient, steady, eternal. Spiritual insights. Continuity never dies. It whispers through every age, waiting for those who will listen. Whispers appear in science, art, prayer, silence, anywhere the soul is open. Longing, restlessness, and déjà vu are not sickness but memory. Compassion and service are not optional virtues but laws of balance. A whisper outweighs 1,000 shouts of pride, for truth carries eternal weight. Practices. Listening practice. Set aside 10 minutes daily in silence. Whisper, "What is continuity saying to me now?" Write what you hear. Whisper journal. Record moments of longing, déjà vu, or unexplainable recognition. Treat them as messages, not accidents. Service act. Do one act of compassion without recognition. Whisper as you act. This is remembrance, science, and spirit. When you read or hear of discoveries about energy, consciousness, or the cosmos, pause and whisper. This is continuity speaking again. Reflection. Where in my life do I feel the whisper of continuity most strongly? Do I treat longing as weakness, or as memory calling me back to balance? How can I live more as remnant, carrying the flame through shadow and noise? What small act of service, truth, or love can I plant today to join the whispers?
To continue listening, step deeper into the wisdom at Next Level Soul TV, where sacred teachings, spiritual cinema, transformative courses, and divine stories await your soul's unfolding. Enter the portal at www.nextlevelsoul.tv and let your spirit remember what it already knows. Awaken, expand, and evolve.